All too often we hear stories in true crime about failures within services leading to or contributing to horrific crimes. And today is no exception. Our star guest today is, as you've probably guessed, a cockwomble of the highest order. But there were opportunities to stop him doing what he went on to do. Lots of opportunities. In Derbyshire in 2021, a man killed his partner and 3 children, and the evening contained other unpleasantries that you might expect from a vicious and selfish bastard. But there were chances to curtail this vile monster, most notably through the Probation Service. Most of the cases I discuss make me angry at the selfishness, senselessness, and the fact that these monsters can exist and in some cases thrive within our society. This one makes me angrier than most, because irrespective how pissed off this dickhead may have been with his partner, he killed 3 children just because they happened to be there. This is not one for the faint-hearted, and anyone with triggering sensitivities around child abuse and violence towards children may want to skip this particular episode. These are the abominable crimes of Damien Bendall, and this is Murder of Crows. Terry Harris was the very definition of a loving mother. She lived for her children. By 2020, her son John Paul Bennett was 12 and her daughter Lacey Bennett was 10. John Paul was reserved and studious, and Lacey was ebullient and outgoing with a love for drama. Chalk and cheese, as the saying goes. But Terry adored them both and was dedicated to creating a loving home for them in Sheffield. But she was lonely and wanted someone to enhance her life and ultimately in the long term support her in raising her children. In one of those horribly fateful moments in the April of 2020, she met a man from Swindon on a dating site. He was charming, and pretty soon he was coming up to Sheffield for weekends. It seemed that Terry may have found a man who could become her partner in life. And the relationship developed quickly. Very quickly. What had started as weekends together quickly morphed, and on one occasion when the man, Damien Bendall, came for a visit, he never left. Still, if he was a supportive and loving partner, then I guess love knows no bounds. But with the benefit of hindsight, Terry's mother noticed changes in Terry after Bendall came on the scene, saying he was always with her. There wasn't a time he wasn't with her. It was just constant. She started to change the way she dressed. She was quieter. She's always been a tomboy. Always. But when she started going with him, it was always tight shorts and low-cut tops. Her hair became bright red. It was as if he was parading her around. So there were concerning signs even from early in their budding relationship. Always nice to have some red flags to look at. By the time Bendall had taken up residence with Terry in September of 2020, she and her children had moved from Sheffield to Killamarsh to be nearer to her mother. But her mother, among others, including some of Terry's friends, had already raised concerns about Bendall's suitability. In fact, as early as July 2020, only a couple of months after they had initially got together, they were worried about Bendall's erratic behaviour and his alcohol and drug use. At this particular time, Terry brushed off their concerns, but they were right to be worried, as Bendall's past was littered with aggression, violence and impulsive behaviour. 31-year-old Bendall's history with law enforcement stretched back to 2004, when aged just 13, he was reprimanded for criminal damage after throwing an egg at a woman's house. I'm assuming that this was intended to shock the young Bendall into changing his ways. But it would seem that his time on the right side of the law only lasted until he was 19, as he then received a caution for cocaine possession. Just a year later, he received his first prison sentence for the violent robbery of an Asian man. He was sentenced to 3 years, but was released on home detention curfew at his mother's home after just over a year. It would appear that once again, this particular brush with law enforcement did not prove much of a deterrent, since in August of 2015 he attempted to rob a newsagent while armed with a knife. Jesus, this guy was already a prick, but we've got a long way to go yet. In 2016, he attacks prison officers after being denied a prison transfer. He is charged with grievous bodily harm and 2 counts of assault. It's also in 2016 that his issues with the Probation Service began. He was a shit, and they were just, well, shit. While he was still serving time for his attempted armed robbery of the newsagent, Bendall's ex-partner contacted the prison to disclose domestic abuse in their prior relationship. Hands up if you're surprised. Yeah, me neither. But as she knew that Bendall was likely to be released soon, she contacted probation in July of 2016 with the same disclosure of domestic abuse and seeking advice on obtaining a restraining order. She evidently did not receive the support she wanted, since a week later she contacted them again and asking to speak to a manager, as she felt that not enough was being done to protect her. This is not the last time we will hear of probation fucking up in this horrific story. Despite the concerns of Bendall's ex-partner, he was released from prison on licence to approved premises on the 20th of December 2016. But no one should have worried at this stage, since he was recalled to prison the next day after failing to report to the aforementioned approved premises. You had one job, Damien. What a fuck nugget. In the January of 2017, he gets sentenced to 30 months in prison for the attack on the prison guards. Just 22 months into that sentence, he is released once again to approved premises on licence. But unable to keep his nose clean for long, quite literally one would imagine, given his predilection for cocaine, he is once again recalled to prison at the end of November 2018 for breaking the curfew at the approved premises, as well as excessive alcohol use on the site of those premises. In August of 2019, he is released at the end of his sentence, having failed to get early release, as he refused to engage with the parole process. But with the release at the end of the sentence, this meant probation had no ground to monitor him. On the 17th of March 2020, just before he met Terry Harris, Wiltshire Police's child sexual exploitation team contacts probation to confirm Bendall's last known address and inform them that they held evidence of sexual risk of harm to girls. What an absolute dreamboat. Then in May of 2020, having been in a relationship with Terry Harris by this point, and theoretically being on his best behaviour, he commits arson in Swindon while under the influence of alcohol and cannabis, as you do. In June of 2021, a member of the then National Probation Services court team describes a curfew requirement for Bendall to live with Miss Harris and her children as suitable after not reading police evidence of sexual risk of harm to girls. Superb work, probation. For the arson, Bendall was handed a 17-month suspended sentence with 175 hours of unpaid work, 20 rehabilitation activity requirement days, a 6-month alcohol treatment requirement, and a 5-month curfew requirement. On the 6th of July, a probation officer's risk assessment of Bendall says any resumption of alcohol or drugs would increase the risk of serious harm. No shit, Sherlock. A month later, Bendall disclosed smoking cannabis and drinking strong alcohol. Did we see this coming? I think we saw this coming, didn't we? So in September of 2021, we find Bendall living with Terry Harris in Killamarsh. He hadn't put a ring on it since authorities had put a ring on him since he was on tag. How terribly romantic. But still, he can't behave himself, because on 10th of September, Bendall was sent an initial warning after failing to comply with a telephone probation appointment. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Didn't even have to go anywhere, just had to answer the bloody phone. No danger of this situation going catastrophically wrong. Hey. So let's jump to the 19th of September 2021. And we're going to be looking at some police body cam footage in a moment. But by way of background, a relative of Bendall's had reached out to Dorset Police after Bendall disclosed to them that he had hurt himself. Dorset Police contacted their colleagues in Derbyshire Police, who dispatched officers to check on him at Terry Harris's address on Chandos Crescent. This is what they encountered.
The ambulance and that was I've killed 4 people.
Okay, just hold the line. Bear with me.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Alright, come to me. Right, mate, have you got anything on you that you shouldn't have? No, there's no weapons or nothing.
Right, do you just want to undo your coat? Have you armed yourself?
Yeah.
You have?
Have you stabbed yourself, mate?
I can see blood on your hands.
Yeah. Anywhere else?
Just my chest, 4 inches in with a bread knife.
Can we have a look?
And one on the stomach. I bled quite.
Right, do you want? Yeah. No, just stay there.
I just don't want to be in front of them.
Right, just around the corner.
Just walking wounded at the minute.
Right, stand here. Stay here.
Right, so we told you, I know what's going to happen to you now, mate.
Well, I know it's going to happen when you go to prison, obviously, again.
Why, what have you done? Have you done something to anyone else?
Yeah.
What have you done?
I've murdered 4 people.
He's been calm and compliant, but he's got some stab wounds to his chest. They're not oozing blood, but he's saying that his family are inside and that he believes he has murdered them.
Do you want to go?
Are you alright for me to go in? Damien, at 07:47 hours, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention when questioned something you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Your arrest is necessary to protect you from harm, to prevent your disappearance, for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay? We're going to get you up, we're going to put you in the back of the van. Stand up.
Damien Bendall had killed 4 people with a claw hammer. 35-year-old Terry Harris, John Paul Bennett, aged 13, and Lacey Bennett, aged 11, were savagely murdered. Tragically, Lacey's friend Connie Gent, also 11, was enjoying a sleepover with Lacey on the evening of September the 18th. Even more tragically and sickeningly, Lacey was raped by Bendall as she lay dying from her wounds. The attacks were thought to have started at around 9:40 p.m. After the attack, it appears that Bendall tried to contact his drug dealer to buy cocaine, as you do. Also, before the police found him, he sold John Paul Bennett's Xbox for drug money. What a fucking despicable human, if human is the right word for whatever he is. On 22nd September 2021, Bendall was charged with 4 counts of murder, and later a further charge was included of rape of a girl under 13 in connection with the incident. He admitted all the charges and was sentenced by Mr. Justice Sweeney to a whole life prison term on the 21st of December 2022. One of the rare, extremely evil individuals made subject to a whole life tariff on account of the violence, cruelty, and extreme circumstances of his crimes. But our story doesn't end there. since an inquest led to the failings of probation being laid bare. In October of 2023, it was found that, wait for this, more than 50 failings by the service meant their deaths could possibly have been avoided. At the time of the murders, Bendall was under curfew at Ms. Harris's home in Killarmarsh, Derbyshire, but no safeguarding checks were carried out with Ms. Harris or her children prior to it commencing or during it. The inquests also heard that there were multiple missed opportunities in Bendall's supervision by a number of overworked, stressed, and inexperienced probation staff. He could, instead, have been sent to prison when he was sentenced for arson just months before the murders. Peter Nieto, the senior coroner for Derby and Derbyshire, said that while Bendall bore primary responsibility for the brutal and savage murders, there were several very stark acts or omissions by both the probation service and individuals that accumulatively contributed to the deaths. The family of Terry, Lacey and John Paul said they believe if probation services had raised issues sooner, they could have avoided the tragedy. The inquests into the 4 deaths heard multiple reports over 2 weeks of how Bendall was managed by overworked and stressed probation officers, with the service facing significant challenges at the time. Mr. Nieto said in recording his conclusion for all 4 inquests, and he said, "My conclusion is unlawful killing, contributed to by acts or omissions by the designated state agency for offending management in the course of Damien Bendall's offender supervision and management." The probation services accepted 51 separate failings at the inquests, which were held at Chesterfield Coroner's Court, in which it accepted a catalogue of missed opportunities and lack of scrutiny concerning Bendall's supervision going back several years. Terry's mother, Angie Smith, also revealed that she was put off from investigating Bendall's past while he was with Terry by using Clare's law, allowing the disclosure of prior domestic abuse issues, because of concerns around where the results would be sent. The domestic violence disclosure scheme, known as Clare's Law, is named after Clare Wood, who was murdered by her ex-boyfriend in 2009. And the scheme is a means of letting people find out from police if their partner has a history of domestic violence. However, Angie changed her mind because she was worried that the police would send their response to her daughter and Bendall might find out. Angie said, "I realised the information would probably go to my daughter, and he's there all the time. I thought, I can't do that. Would I put her in more danger? Would I put the kids in more danger? So I didn't do it." She and one of Terry's other relatives, Jade Donovan, are now trying to get Clare's law changed so the police can send a response to a close relative. They also want to make Clare's law application forms simpler and easier to find on police force websites. They said they had meetings with ministers and Home Office officials about their campaign, with Jade Donovan saying, "The meetings with the ministers were not that good. They basically told us Clare's law does work, and that was it." The Home Office said the form was going to change and it would be consistent across all police forces. But that is still not happening. And this form is still not being sent to the different police forces. Clare's law does work to a certain part, but it's not fit for purpose, and there is still work to be done. Terry's parents, Angela Smith and Lawrence Harris, issued a joint statement in honour of their daughter. They said, "Our Terry, our daughter, our world, our everything. From the day she was born, she was our princess, and she remained so until she was cruelly taken from us. Terry was born and raised in the East End of London until she was 17, when she moved to Sheffield with her mum, travelling to Essex when she could to spend time with her dad. She made many friends throughout her short life and remained loyal to all of them. She was an amazing mum. Her babies were her world. She will be missed more than any words can ever express, not only by her family, but by anyone who had the privilege to have been in her life." Jason Bennett, father to John Paul and Lacey, said, "Life will never be the same again. Families have been left broken by the awful loss of John Paul, Lacey, Terry and Connie. My son John Paul was absolutely my mini-me. Loving, fiery, funny and passionate, with the most beautiful, caring heart you could find. Behind his tough exterior, he was the most loving son you could wish for. His love for his mum was amazing. He just wanted everyone to be happy. Lacey was my TikTok queen, creating dance after dance. Lacey also had another obsession. Since Jack Grealish joined Man City, she became totally besotted with him, with a room full of Jack Grealish photos, and Man City became her new favourite team. Jason's partner Caroline added to the sentiments, saying, "I've been left broken. I'm devastated." John Paul and Lacey came into our lives and brought so much love and happiness, and were adored by myself and their big sisters. Forever loved and remembered. We would also like to thank everyone for their loving support, and our thoughts go out to everyone affected by the tragic loss of 4 precious lives. Charlie Gent, the father of Connie, who just through quirk of fate was having a sleepover with Lacey Bennett when she was attacked, said, "Connie was such a special and sweet little girl. She was my little sidekick. She was my rock, my shining star, my angel. I feel like I was her hero and I let her down. Connie liked her music and she loved to sing. She also loved TikTok. She touched everyone she met. Lacey was her best friend. All she ever did was talk about her when she came to stay at my place. We used to argue about silly things, like who would have the last chocolate. She was grateful for everything, and she didn't expect anything. She was one of the nicest girls you would ever meet. The hardest thing is that I'm not going to get to hold her again." This video is of course dedicated to Terry Harris, John Paul and Lacey Bennett and Connie Gent, who found themselves facing the misplaced rage of a total cockwomble. I hope they are at peace following such a senseless and violent end. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. Things are getting mighty interesting here at Crow HQ, with a big announcement coming soon, thanks to the efforts of some very, very special people. So make sure that you're subscribed to stay up to date with all the shenanigans. With that said, I'm Steve. Samson, again for whatever reason, is having a bit of a pout. But I'm Steve, and I will see you when I see you.
ready, but you won't like it, you say that